Alright, YouTube. As you know, I'm an avid fisherman. I'm from the East Coast Canada. I'm up here in Ontario now. So I've been using lots of this stuff. Lots of big lures, crankbaits, swim baits. You know, to target all the many different fish they got up here in Ontario. It's friggin' amazing how many different species. Now, I went on YouTube looking for bait videos because sometimes you don't always want to use, cast and retrieve lures. Sometimes you have a child with you, or you just want to go after panties and you want a worm, half a worm. Catfish love worms. And I don't live in a place that have wild hogs, so you can't just go out, put a stick in the ground and rub it with an iron bar and get worms coming up trying to escape. Yeah, I could go out with a car battery and metal rods and blah 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 blah. This is the easiest simple method I know to get free bait here in Ontario and many other parts of Canada. I am going to be capturing nightcrawlers. These are not the same worms you get at bait shops or local hardware stores. What you usually purchase at the Canadian Tire, so to say, or bait shops is red wigglers and compost worms that live in, very, very little amount of soil. What I'm going after are nightcrawlers, and they like to be down deep. You obviously need a bucket, some kind of container you can put your worms in. Now, I get this, and this boy is just worm bedding, right? It's got some food in it, I believe. It keeps my worms good. You don't get all dirty, and it's not like the dirt you get with your worms when you buy them at a bait shop or Canadian Tire. The worms you buy at Canadian Tire are red wrigglers, and they're composting worms usually. Night crawlers are a little different. They like to go down deep in the soil. Unlike compost worms, they'll stay relatively close to the top. So your worms are only good for 2-3 days in your fridge, so keep that in mind, because they're all gonna ball up together and go a little yucky. So your worms are good for about 3 days with this method, because they are night crawlers, not red wigglers. So what you need: bucket, a good worm bedding, and this is just like a fluffy material. As you see, it's nice and clean, there's no smell. Get a Canadian Tire, really cheap. Next, you need a glove. Okay, you don't need one, but I prefer to use one. And what I use is a headlight. Now this one is kind of bright. Here's the tip. I take 2 pieces of green painter's tape. Now, if you've ever seen the little military flashlights back in the 70s, 80s, they came with the red and green lens. Most people don't realize that was for collecting bugs and night crawlers in a life or death situation so you didn't die. And what the green tape is for is you put that over your light. I use 2 pieces because this light's kind of bright. And now what we have is a green filter. And if you can see there, the worms don't see that, buddy. When you have just a straight bright light, the worms sense that, and they dive into the ground as soon as they see it. With the green or red filter over your light, you can use a piece of plastic, you can use cloth. I just use tape. It gives it a green filter, filters out the blue or white light, I believe it is, and the worms don't notice it as quickly. But the brighter the light, the harder you're going to have catching worms, because the worms are going to see the light before you see them, and they'll be gone. You're going to be thinking there's no worms out there. So you definitely need a green filter or a red filter on whatever light source you're using. And of course, a good set of boots, because you want to do this at night. And usually the grass is a little wet, so I recommend you put on your fishing boots. So that's it for the gear. Here's a shot of the bedding I put in here. I just fluff it up a little bit as we're putting her in there. And that'll be good for the worms. Now, I'm not going to collect no worms tonight. I'm not going fishing. Not for a few more days, so I'm not going to collect worms and let them go bad. I'm just going to go out and make this video, so you're not going to see me dropping worms in a bucket. But I am going to go out and show you how to find them. Alright. There we go, that's more like it. I'll bring him in the light so you can see. So, there you go. No need to buy your bait. That's just how easy it is. Now again, we're not keeping any bait tonight, so. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed.